The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library.
Taps for a Gone World. I grieve for the lost tribes, the gone children, the gone animals, the fallen trees, and silent birds. I cry water tears, and I cry for all who have gone forever under the water. I grieve for the red, black, and white soldiers of America, slaves of America. The cries of the oppressed fall into the shores of grit and grime, twin towers of grief. In the suspension of time, my flute echoes from the Anasazi cave. I call the unending names, the answering drums and thunder. I cry for the soul of America.
My name is Terrence Doran. I'm a documentary filmmaker, also a writer, and I'm reading a letter I wrote about September 11, 2001. I do not believe the official story. We are now 20 years later from September 11, 2001 to September 11, 2021. And these are my commentaries with my brother Jan's beautiful flute music and a poem he wrote to accompany his flute. So I'm just going to read the letter. It's my view of 9/11. I do not believe the government story, although I know many do. This is a story about how the very best and the very worst of our human natures. We begin by honoring the best, those rescue workers who risk their health and their very lives with little or no concern to their own well-being, to dive into the inferno of hell in Manhattan, the main bureau of New York City, on September 11, 2001. We pay tribute now to the best and the bravest among us, and some paid the ultimate sacrifice. Just a few blocks from what was the World Trade Center is a little fire station across the street, not far from Wall Street. That morning must have started for the firefighters like every other morning until they got the call. They were the very first responders. It would have only taken them a minute or two. And the plaque on the outside of the station says it all about those who died responding with little regard for their own safety. Contrast this with Wall Street, where gathers the most greedy, selfish human beings on the planet. There's a little church across the street from the Twin Towers where George Washington prayed. It became a sanctuary, a resting place, a spiritual getaway for the very best the race has to offer. Volunteers brought food, coffee, blankets, cots, medicine, and tended to the workers. So tired they sprawled out on the cots. The walls are lined with drawings of children from around the world and wishes to the United States for the horrible suffering on that day. Letters of gratitude. I have been to many places around the world, and I have never been to a place like that little church. How did it survive? It sat in the shadow of those towers. We all know the story. Tuesday, September 11, 2001, a beautiful morning in America. The sun is shining. We all remember, and we remember where we were, what we were doing. I was in the house in Garrett, Indiana. My wife had taken our daughter, who would celebrate her second birthday in just 1 week, to a daycare at a church about 10 miles from our house. Life goes on, like any and every other morning, except this one. While my wife was driving and I was on the phone with a friend in Cincinnati, there were, we were told, human beings with something else on their mind. There were 19 of them, and they were busy boarding planes at various airports, mostly Boston, where once on the plane they displayed the box cutters they had in their pockets, not in their underwear, not in the cheeks of their butts, not in their shoes, in their pockets, which means they went through the security, the one that goes off if you have metal on you, and got on the plane and waved them around and said, "We are hijacking this plane." They boarded legally with tickets and boarding passes, but strangely, their names do not appear on any flight list. They then proceeded to go in the cockpit, and did they pull the pilot out of his chair? What did they do with him? They, one did at least, took his place and flew the plane into buildings in New York called the Twin Towers, a feat worthy of the pilots with great skill and training. And these hijackers had neither. But fly it into the building they did, and oh how the TV cameras were fond of showing the plane hitting what we now know as the Twin Tower and exploding in a ball of flames, followed by a giant puff of smoke, and presto, the building comes down, all of it, hundreds of stories of it, every single story. But it doesn't explode, and debris does not fly all over New York as you would expect, including on the Staten Ferry, not much more than a stone's throw away. Or on the little church across the street where George Washington prayed. How is that even possible? For a giant building to collapse and not fall on a little building close to it. It just fell straight down, one story on top of the other. Witnesses just minutes later said they heard explosions, like a bomb going off. There's more, of course. Another plane, another tower. Later that afternoon, another building in the complex that no plane touched. It fell too. Another plane was still flying around for almost an hour, maybe more incredibly, until the story goes, brave passengers got hold of the plane, and in the fight for control of the plane, crashed in a field somewhere in Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, yet another plane is making a little trip to the nation's capital. That would be Washington, D.C., and it flies right into the side of the Pentagon, leaving, well, little trace of an airplane. There was a security camera on top of a gas station across the street. The FBI took that camera. They or someone took the black boxes, supposedly indestructible, that would tell the story of what happened. They never showed up. But the FBI found a passport belonging to one of the hijackers out in the street by the Twin Towers. An hour or so later, witnesses are no longer saying they heard an explosion like a bomb going off. The military was doing some sort of fake drills that day. The president, named George W. Bush, was reading a story to a bunch of kids about a goat in Florida where his brother Jeb just happened to be the governor. Never before or after did the president read a story to kids in a school, and even as the horror unfolded, the president kept reading. Another brother was in charge of security at the World Trade Center, or Twin Towers, and the facility was closed that weekend before September 11th, 2001, closed on September 8th and 9th for repairs. Many people made a fortune in the market because they somehow knew these planes were going to crash. Never in history has a building collapsed in this fashion. Scientists say it is impossible, that it defies the law of gravity, that only bombs placed in the basement could cause a building to implode. The World Trade Center was closed for repairs 2 days before September 11th. The president's brother Marvin was in charge of the building at one point. The greatest security system in the world, the most expensive, did not know 19 men were going to hijack those airplanes. But the same system said later the men had been going to flight schools and meetings for months. Months. My dog and I for lunch money could have sniffed them out. Nor did the world's greatest security system with all kinds of jets do one thing that morning to stop those hijackers. Not a thing. And a few minutes after the smoke had cleared, the guy named John Ashcroft, the Attorney General of the United States, released the names of the 19 hijackers, the guys they didn't have a clue a minute before was going to do such a thing. At least 6 of the men turned out to be alive. Here's another impossibility. If you are on a plane that crashed and there are no survivors, I have news for you. You cannot be alive. You can't be dead and alive at the same time. Wait. If the United States government says you can, then you can. And then all the evidence, like the parts of the building, were taken away without being examined. The story is a bad man named Osama bin Laden ordered the attacks. When all planes were banned from flying in the sky later that day, planes were still flying anyway, carrying members of the bin Laden family out of the country. The president and his family had a business relationship with bin Laden and his family. It is a crime scene, but there is no investigation. I could go on and on. There are books and documentaries telling you what happened. They don't matter. Even Richard Clarke, National Security Advisor at the time, says the CIA recruited hijackers for 9/11. You are an American. You believe what you want to believe. Facts don't matter. I'm an American. That is the official story. Countries have been invaded and ruined, fortunes made on the basis of this story. Iraq and Afghanistan, and even by the official story, these little compared to the United States had nothing to do with 9/11. No matter. We want revenge so badly we don't care who it's on, even if it's on us. The Patriot Act came out. That gave the leaders the right, legal and proper, to do to us just about anything they want. We don't care. They said it will help protect us, and we are all scared out of our wits by terrorists. Terrorists. Big bad terrorists will come and rape our women and murder our neighbors, take our homes, protest us. Go ahead. spy, torture, murder. Just protect us. We don't mind. Just protect us from these terrorists. My point is not to argue about who did 9/11, because to me it's so obvious that our government was the instigators. No, my question is why? Why are we so gullible, so easily fooled, so quick to believe this most preposterous nonsense? You believe this. You believe your country dropped the atom bombs on civilians in Japan in August 1945, and it was a noble act done to save lives. You believe Barack Obama when he says, take my word for it, we killed Osama bin Laden, we shot him and threw his body into the ocean, and we aren't showing you any pictures, but you take my word for it. You know leaders lie. Barack Obama's a serial liar. You remember hope, change we can believe in. Remember wars would end, the money people would pay, he was with you, for you, sure he was. I wonder if he has ever said anything that is true. George W. is right there with him, serial liar. Remember weapons of mass destruction? I believe that he said over 200 lies to support the invasion of Iraq. They had no weapons of mass destruction. That makes Obama, Bush, other mass murderers, war criminals. Barack Obama, the peace president, has killing operations going on in over 70 countries. He bombed 7 Muslim countries while he was president. In his last year in office, he dropped over 24,000 bombs on countries that altogether dropped 0 bombs on America, 0. No doubt they will come out on September 11th, 2021, 20 years to the day, and make solemn pronouncements about unity and loyalty and peace and sacrifice and what a great nation this is, every word more insulting to an intelligent mind than the previous one. How America is always kind and good, pure and noble, chosen by God to lead the human race out of darkness into light, and anything we do is justified because, well, they're evil, whoever it is, and we're good and pure. We wreck economies, poison the air, destroy countries, lay waste to hope. They are psychopaths, George W. Bush. He will act heartbroken at the loss of lives that he caused to happen, and will believe him. You never saw those TV shows where the police are questioning the killer of dozens of people, and the killer will act so surprised and be so sincere in his desire to help. Psychopaths are actors. How do you think Ted Bundy lured all those poor women to their doom? Not by saying, hi, my name is Ted and I want to kill you, please get in the car with me. No, he feigned an injury, put on a smile, put on a helpless look. Why? What does it say about us, our character? We believe what we want to believe. In the great song, The Boxer, Paul Simon says, a man disregards, hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. The essential American soul is hard, isolate, stoic, and a killer. It has never yet melted. The great writer D.H. Lawrence said that. He lived in New Mexico for a period of time. We are all, many of us, cold-blooded killers. We remember 9/11 for the same reason we remember the Holocaust. We get a thrill out of death, out of being on the side that causes it. It's why we love the Civil War. Nothing is more delicious than the thought of Americans killing each other, brother killing brother. But not to feel guilty, to sink under the terrible weight of our pleasures, we create the honorable excuse to not feel guilty. That we save lives, Iraqi freedom, slavery, snuff out terrorists to make the world a better and safer place. As my brother Jan says, war is rationalized bloodlust. We believe this nonsense because we are at heart, many of us, killers. Our obsession with status, with winners and losers, wealthy and poor, leaves us no other choice. We want to be Obama, living the American dream, to kill with impunity and be rewarded for it. But since we can't all be Obama, we cheer those who are and who carry out his main orders. Soldiers are poorly paid assassins. That's what Mark Twain called them, paid assassins. You believe things you don't see or hear, but take the word of others. You are taught one thing in school, obedience to authority, to law, to the story of America, but this is a great country ordained by God himself to rid the world of evil, when we, too often, are the evil. It used to be that the rich, middle, poor, the rich could monster the poor because they knew the middle class would approve. The middle class hates the poor because they have to feel superior to them. They, the poor, have character defects. They are lazy. They don't want to work. Therefore, they deserve to be poor and deserve none of my money to help them. But no problem with giving money to billionaires and millionaires and tax deferments. They don't pay taxes, on and on. All that's left for the poor to feel superior to are people in other lands who have to be demonized to justify killing them. It worked so well for the Nazis. But now the rich has expanded poor to include the middle class. They don't want us to have anything. All we're good for is to exploit and fight their wars. These are the people you believe? We have given our country over to psychopaths and buffoons, charlatans and phonies. We end with a tribute to the innocent, to all those people who perished that day, sacrificed on the altar of greed. More than 3,000 people died on September 11, 2001. A dream, a beautiful dream, that all people are created equal. It died too, and we are all paying the price.
Taps for a Gone World. I grieve for the lost tribes, the gone children, the gone animals, the fallen trees, and silent birds. I cry water tears, and I cry for all who have gone forever under the water. I grieve for the red, black, and white soldiers of America, slaves of America. The cries of the oppressed fall into the shores of grit and grime, twin towers of grief. In the suspension of time, my flute echoes from the Anasazi cave. I call the unending names, the answering drums and thunder. I cry for the soul of America.